I was just having a good conversation with, I know we're live, so I won't say the name, but scheduling a meeting for you and a top insurance player that I think I want to connect you to for some bigger potential for our Greatness Lab. So that was a good talk there. Okay, so we do these StreamYards. Jason McCool and I do these StreamYards every month, and we stream these to various places. And this is our chance to kind of educate people on what we're doing at the Greatness Lab, which I'm really excited about. And as I was telling this person I was just on the phone with, I mean, I have not met an insurance person, and I say this, and you always take it very humbly, but I have not met an insurance person in the insurance space in my 37 years of coaching that is as skilled as Jason McCool as it relates to the building an ecosystem. I mean, that says a lot from some of the top people that I've worked with and coached. So I just think it's fascinating, what has been built there, and the recruiting process, the training process, the development process. And I think it really is the pros. And if you look at sports, there's amateur levels, there's pro levels. Okay. Yeah. And when you think about the difference between the income that a person can make, there's amateur income and there's pro income, right? But there's a series of behaviors that someone has to have. There's an identity shift that someone has to have. There's a series of actions that someone has to have to really get into the pros of the insurance business and the financial services business. So that's really what we're going to talk about today is, Jason, how do you see, when I say going pro, what does that mean to you? And then a person who's out there who is watching, who doesn't want to spend their entire life in the minor leagues, man, making minor league money. And I remember I interviewed the director of mental training for the St. Louis Cardinals after they won a World Series. And I said, who trains the most on the Cardinals? And he said, that's easy, man. It's Albert Pujols. The best player on the team actually went and got the most training. And I said, well, who struggles to train? And he said, that's easy. The people who demote back down to the minor leagues. He said the ones that we fire, they go back to the minor leagues, never come to training. The best player actually wants more training. And he said, because he's a pro, man. I never forgot that. That was Dr. Jason Selk, the psychologist for the St. Louis Cardinals. So today we're going to talk about, in the Greatness Lab, this StreamYard, what does it mean to go pro? So when you hear that, when you hear going pro, what do you think of as it relates to financial services?
Well, I think as it relates to financial services, you have to begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
And then you have to start to define what your life should look like in the ideal situation. And not limiting that by what you've already done or what you've seen or what you've completed, but really kind of look at this thing and say, to get out of the minor leagues, can you make $15 million a year? Can you make $20 million a year? Could you have a $500 million exit? Could you have a lifestyle where you don't meet with clients, where the business builds itself without you actually having anything to do with it other than being the visionary and having a team of people around you that consistently are driving the business the way business should be driven, which is by others. And to me, that's being pro. And one of the best things, we've identified, Coach, chatting with each other, it's how you see yourself tomorrow when you get up. Do you see yourself being worthy and or capable of being able to have a huge operation and not really being the person every single day that's driving the bus on that? And it starts by just making a decision and say, am I a small business? Am I a practitioner, or am I a platform? And I think one of the biggest things that we see in financial services is most people define their own success by somebody that they were attracted to who had success that convinced them that if they actually did the same exact thing, that they have the exact outcome. And that's an amazing thing, but it also becomes your lid. It becomes your limiting belief system in terms of what you're capable of, rather than thinking, can you be a Merrill Lynch? Can you be a Florida Financial Advisors? Can you be a Greatness Lab where other people come and join in order to be able to achieve the greatest versions of themselves? And when you're there, you're starting to think like a pro.
Yep. Because the first step of a pro, and I don't know if Elaine is still on here. I'm getting a little bit of background noise. Elaine, if you're still on, we may want to mute you because I'm getting a little bit of background noise there. I think the first step of being a pro is actually observing a pro. Wouldn't you? I mean, to me, it's like when you're in the presence of a pro, okay, it's like the just observing their behavior. How do they talk? How do they walk? How do they carry themselves? How do they prepare? To me, the first step is exposure to a pro, right? Because to your point, we've kind of adopted this from Adam Coffey, the accidental arrogance of success.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I started, making $1 million a year. Personally, I'm like, man, I made it. Freaking, I've hit the like that's how you think. It's like I've hit the jackpot here. But the truth is, when you try to go do something big, you actually see that it's not even close to the amount of money that you need to do something big. Right. And you don't know that until you go do something bigger. And you're like, man, you need a lot of money to do something bigger. Whether it be Me Build Greatness Factories, that's the first time I really figured out, man, you need a lot of freaking money to do this because things are going to happen and delays are going to happen. And so I think the first step of being a pro, because if you don't know, and I was going to ask you, your thoughts from last week when you spoke at 8% Nation, a lot of those people may just wake up every day and try to optimize their current business, which is just how do I sell a little bit more insurance? How do I sell a little bit more insurance? And then you come along and go, this is a pathway to a much bigger arena, right? And they go, whoa, now I haven't even thought about that. It's almost like they didn't even think it was possible for them. So when you think about your pathway there to go pro, what's the first decision a person needs to make?
To go pro. I think that's one of the most important things, but is to recognize the fact that without coaching and without being able to see something, it's very difficult for you to make the necessary steps to actually accelerate your growth into the business.
Yeah.
So 2 ways to do it. You and I talk about this all the time. It's either, right, it's deciding what you want to do and then who can help you do it. And what we do at the Greatness Lab is exactly that. We've built an ecosystem. I was fortunate enough to spend time and have great leadership. And I ended up working for a friend of mine in a small RIA who did an amazing job. Guy did an amazing job. And I was able to see the potential in what he was building and then attach what I already had skills to say, okay, now I'm going to go build and scale and exit this business. And I think that if you don't know what the exit looks like, how to maximize valuation, what are the systems and processes, and what are the success formulas that drive it, then what you need to do is you need to find somebody that can help you do that. Ask yourself this question: are you growing by 30% a year compound?
Yep.
Are you actually meeting with clients and prospects? Is recruiting an event or a system? Do you have a system to develop leaders to be able to continue to carry on to build the business without you? And if the answer to any of those is no, you're not a pro yet, doesn't mean you're not on your road to be there, but there's things that we should be doing together to help you scale, grow, and exit your business.
Yeah. So when you think about this, when was it that you made a decision to go pro? I think for me, there was a period in my life where I've emulated people, right? Where I kind of looked out and I modeled the behavior that they had. And then one day I'm like, get that, I'm going to become one of these people, right? I'm not just going to emulate them. And I think most people spend their entire lives believing, oh, well, that's for somebody else. Like, I don't think I could ever do what you've done. Because I was thinking last week when you gave your presentation and I was sitting on the front row, how many of the people in the room believe deep in their heart of hearts that they could do that, right? Because I remember calling Jeremy Miner, who went to college to be a psychologist, ended up being a sales trainer. And I said, why do people not go do what they hear me talk about doing? And he said 80% have inferiority complex. They don't believe they can do it. 20% have superiority complex, and they actually believe they can do it without the help of another person. Like, oh yeah, that's good. I went and saw McCool speak. He was good. And I say like, oh yeah, I could do that, man. I could do that. What do you think it is, and when did you make this decision?
Well, I always pursued people that I respected in terms of their leadership and their ability to do things. When you're a younger person, it's mainly title. So you had a title of that I wanted, and I'm willing to take feedback from you to get it, and then I would pursue it. That was a good thing because I ended up pursuing people that had great results for long periods of time and what I thought success was. And with all due, it is success, right? I was chasing a guy that made $1 million a year back in 1982. He's probably worth $130 million today.
Yeah.
So I was chasing that. I said, he's sharp. So if he says, shine my shoes, I'm going to shine my shoes. He says, come in early, I'm going to come in early. He says, stay late, stay late. He says, when you do something stupid, do something stupid. I was pursuing that $1 million dream. But I realized over a period of time that was my own ceiling, because I was trying to be a corporate executive, right? Learning the behaviors of what that is in order to be able to be unappreciated and underpaid for the job that I was doing in a very political environment. What I realized that the set of skills that I was building was actually more transferable to doing it myself. And I didn't know that at the time, right? So they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. And I reached a place in my career where the politics were too much, but I still had the skill. And then I made that decision to say, I'm not going to use my skills anymore by playing in the small leagues. Yep. And I was going to start on my business venture with my wife, as you know the story. You had said this, and the first decision, when you look backwards, you said the first decision you made was the decision that changed everything in terms of the way you perceived yourself and where the business went. I didn't buy a lead. I didn't pick up a phone. I didn't go get a customer. I didn't go sell a policy. What I did is I hired a recruiter. Yep. And that recruiter's job was to put 10 people in the seats that I would be able to go train how to generate a lead, how to get a client, how to go sell a policy, and then how to lead others. And when you take that mindset shift tomorrow, no matter where you are, you can start over, and you can start to take your magic of the skill that you've built, and then you can start to parlay that into transferring that skill to others at a hyper level, which will help you scale your business and become a pro.
Let's talk about psychological flexibility and ability, a high degree for ambiguity. Do you feel like you needed that? Like, how did you see failure early on? Like, you get 9 people, some are going to work, some are not. It is what it is. So what now? What? Because I think so many people, I really can't figure this out, are so paralyzed by taking an action because of fear, which is just hard for me to get my mind around. Yeah. It's like we don't fail, man. We try it, it works or it don't work. We learn something. So do you feel like that's a big piece of the equation?
I don't know. Maybe, right? Because ultimately I had hired and trained as an executive so many people that the callus of ambiguity was away. I knew the success formula. It hasn't changed in 25 years. And the success formula has been activity times conversion times case size, right? And then the second part of that is times work weeks. And I learned that 25 years ago from Teresa Hanratty and then Larry Post. And we won. We were winning at that every single year. If I hired, trained, and developed more people than you, meaning if I increased my head count by 50% a year, I would grow by 50% a year. It was a foregone conclusion. What I didn't know is, left to my own devices, how big I could build it. So I knew I'd be able to build it. I knew the formula. And I had multiple locations that I had managed. Now, did I know I could build it to 28 locations in 18 states and this year do 100 million in revenue? That wasn't really it was a little beyond my recognition. But what I didn't do, what a lot of people do, Coach, and you've probably seen this, is they become successful and they believe their own headlines and they don't continue to try to get better every year. I still have an individual development plan. I still take coaching. I'm taking coaching from you. I'm constantly trying to figure out, how do we do better? How do we get better? There's no accidental arrogance of success. That's why we created the Greatness Lab. It's another way for us to continue to evolve and become more successful. And I think that a lot of times, especially the small business person that owns a practice or a small, I consider a small business doing a couple $1 million a year, maybe even EBITDA at that point, still working their butts off, doesn't see past the forest because they have some success and they have some knowledge and expertise, and other people, the way you look at them in the world, you're like, wow, that person's very impressive. Well, there's always somebody who's more impressive than you, right? That what you need to do is seek that person out and be a little uncomfortable for you to get better and better over time.
After you've built something that, $500 million plus machine, when you go out there looking for people, because you just went last week to Vegas and saw Chesney at the Sphere, and I'm sure you're because that's like the mecca. If you're performing out there, it's like, this is the best of the best, man. If you're performing it here, when you're out there looking for somebody to model behavior from at your level, who do you look to? Like, who are you looking at going, now that person is a pro and I could level up in that area. Who do you look at?
Well, Grant Cardone is a great example of somebody that I could level up. The guy's a machine,
Yep.
and I don't want to work as hard as he does. That's the only problem that we have. I think the man is on camera and working constantly,
Yep.
and he enjoys it. So I don't know. Other than that, I try to look for people that are not in my business anymore, because ultimately business is a widget. So I seek folks that have done great things and have had big exits and ask them, what do how did you do it? What did you do? What did you learn? What are the things? It's interesting when you talk to those people, that they literally all have similar stories. They started off with one thing and they went into something else. The gentleman you introduced me the other day, he owned that real estate business.
Yep.
And now he's doing the landscaping and the concrete. So he's buying up all these other little businesses in order to complement. He started as a real estate broker. What an amazing guy with an amazing story. These are the people that I go and seek, not advice necessarily, but perspective.
Yep.
I listen 2 ears in one mouth and listen appropriately. But it's hard, to be honest. It's, at a certain point, you're going in financial services, the amount of people that I can look at and say have done, and that's not to be braggadocious, but that have done what we've done. And I don't say me, what we, meaning the people at FFA every single day is nothing short of incredible.
But when you look at even Grant's business, if he chose, I guess the variance in your business and his is if he chose to get off social media and not be on there as much, what kind of negative effect would that have on that business versus with your business? It's not as much a variable.
I'm not the variable in my business. And that's, I think, one of the important things when people are looking at us or having these discussions about going pro. We're not going to create a business where you are out forward facing. You're trying to put your business forward facing, and without you, so there's a skill associated with doing that. And it has to do with having a right vision, a right mission, right, good values, and in building it, and in the intentionality of doing the things that you don't want to do, which is, and this isn't to be negative. You shouldn't really be meeting with clients if you're building a business. If you're building a practice, nothing wrong with that, right? But if that's what your identity is like loving your clients every single day, you're not making as big of an impact as you possibly could by helping thousands of clients through the value proposition that you provide, and on a bigger scale. Not to work harder, but to work on things that are going to really drive your business.
So when let's shift the talk here just a little bit to when you're looking at advisors that are coming in and you've got 800, what characteristics are you looking for one that you think has the potential to go pro? Because you've got some that have kind of risen through the ranks to management, leadership, and you're looking at them going, that one, because I'm assuming when you first started, you had 9, then you had 18, and you said, hey, these two have the characteristics to be leaders. Okay. So how does that process work within your company now?
It's a great question, right? So, and I'm going to talk about when we were small, because I think that's even more important. I hired everybody with the intent of having a big vision. So I brought the first 5 people that came into the office. Basically, I brought them. Everybody was on the executive team. So I got them in the room where it happened. Okay. And I said to them, look, guys, I want to create a vision of something massive where we're going in 5 years from today. And I want you to be part of something really, really special. And I was eagerness over readiness. Then I had another 5 people, and I had another meeting, and I brought 7 of those people, and I left 3 of them out. And I said, you guys you're not eager enough. You don't show up on time. You're fucking around all day. You're lazy. You're not taking this serious enough. And I don't want you in the room to making something great. Well, 2 of those 3 people begged me to get into the room and said, I want to be part of that something special. Right. So it's eagerness over readiness. It wasn't about could they make a phone call or could they generate a lead. It was about how much they bought into the vision of the company, the vision and the values, and that we were going there. People are motivated by 3 different things: money, marbles, and chalk. Right. That's Teresa Hanratty taught me that a long time ago. And money is the least of it. What they want is achievement. You want to feel good about yourself by going towards things. And what you need to do is you need to embrace people that you want them to be part of something bigger. Allow them a seat at the table to make decisions that align with the values and the economics of your business. And then tell them you have a bigger seat for them and let them go get it. And what they'll do is they'll go do that. It was funny at a point, I don't know, it was 3-4 years ago, right after the big exit, I thought I was going to only work a few more years, right? And then I really enjoy work, and my identity is caught up in this business, and I want to make a bigger impact and help other people. So I called my boss once and I said, what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a part-time role as a board, and I'm going to appoint a CEO. The problem is the CEO, if the place is on fire, and the guy will make $5-10 million a year. And I said, what I want to do is I just want to hire somebody that more as a placeholder and lets me do what I do. And he goes, Jason, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say in your life. And he goes, why? He said, well, why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you bake in your economics in terms of you get paid the way you think you should get paid based on the business, and then set that person's targets as high as that are necessary for you to get what you want out of that business. And then let that person go. What do you care if he makes $5 million a year? What do you care if he makes $25 million a year? And the light bulb went on in my head, and I said, you know what? He's absolutely right. So if you give people targets and metrics that they want to pursue and go after, you allow them to make as much money as possible and have as much success as they possibly can. And you get out of their way, knowing that you've protected something in yourself, and then showing them what they can actually do and when they're capable of it. Man, it's incredible what people do. And that was some of the best advice that I've ever gotten. One of my top guys, one of my senior vice presidents this year, he'll likely make $1 million. He's 31 years old, not many million. Plus he has stock options. And stock options in our business, he's probably got 3 or 4 million in options, and the guy's been making big money. Next year, his options start to go live. He'll probably cash $400,000 or $500,000 on top of his regular income. The guy's going to be worth $20 million by the time he's 40, right? Who am I to get in the way of that?
Right.
I should never do that. And I think a lot of times people, that's what they're challenged with, is they're become their own enemy and not allowing people to grow at accelerated rates.
I like that. Okay, let's finish with a few things. A person's out there. Last week, you and I both spoke at an insurance conference called the 8%, and they're out there and they're plateaued at something. They could stay plateaued at it for a number of years. What would you advise them to do, even if we weren't advising them to come join us at the Greatness Lab? Okay, and they came to you and they said, "Look, I'm stuck making $500,000 a year. I've been making it for the last 10 years."
Yeah.
What would you tell them to say? Okay, that's great. 500 grand is great, right? But if you want to make 2 million a year, or 3 million a year, or 10 million a year, what would you advise them to do to go pro?
Yeah. Well, they say your income is the top 6 average of the top 6 people you hang around with, right?
Yep.
So, and it's hard necessarily where you are. But if you're in a circle, if you're around most of the people you hang around with make 500 grand a year, then the likelihood is you're going to make 500 grand a year. What you got to do is you got to go to a different club, right? And what you're going to do is you got to seek coaching, number one, from somebody that plays at a different level than you. Number 2 is you need to surround yourself and go to events and training where people that have done more than you are doing, and go there without your ego, but go there with the intent of learning how to become better at your job. So a lot of times what happens is people go to these events, and what they want to do is go there to convince other people how good they are, right? As opposed to going to these events and thinking to myself, I've got a lot to learn. And even if, sometimes I've learned a lot of things from other people, what not to do, right? So a lot of times I hear people and they tell me how great they are and all the great things that they do. And I just think to myself, well, that's wonderful. I'm not going to do that, but now I know not to do it, because it led to that $500,000 result. That's not what we're looking for. The third thing I would tell you to do, the big decision when it comes to going pro is am I going to run a lifestyle practice? Am I going to continue to grow one lead, one client at a time, or am I going to invest in the infrastructure? And there's probably some place in the middle, which is the third way that you can do, which is really where the Greatness Lab comes in. And we can do this a few different ways, but basically we could hyper accelerate your growth by, deciding not what, but who, right? Who can help you? the most. And we are a business with a proven entity that has been able to do this over and over and over again for people, that you could just partner with us. And in partnering with us, we can just plug in the systems, and overnight you'll go from having no financial advisors or insurance people in your system to within a year you'll have 15, within 2 years you'll have 45, within 3 years you'll have 110. Your income will go from 500 to 5 million within a 3 to 5 year period of time. And when you have that, you can take a $50 million exit. To me, that is an offer that doesn't exist out there any other place.
Yeah.
Which is a special thing that we have for the right-minded person whose identity has shifted from small ball to big ball. Let's go play. Let's get out of the minors and go into the majors and see what happens.
Well, I'm at my home office today and I have the book. I'm looking right at the book right now, Who Not How. And I'm looking at 10X is easier than 2X. And Sullivan said it best. You can have an idea of something you want to do, and then someone else can actually help you do it. You don't have to think you got to have the idea and go do it. And that's really where I think the Greatness Lab comes in. It's like, I could have an idea if I owned an insurance agency, but I go, man, don't seem to be as good at that as they do. Why not that be my who? And like you said, we have people that are doing it every day. We have insurance companies that are coming to us every day that have the full manpower, the recruiting, the training, the selling, the development. That's what I was telling this person a minute ago. I said, McCool has really done something that nobody's done. Some people are great at recruiting. I've coached those people. Some people are great at team building. Some people are great at building downlines. But I've never seen an ecosystem that goes start to finish. Okay. And it taps into all those things. And I think that's our great competitive advantage at the Greatness Lab.
Yeah. One thing I want to say to your point, and I said this at the talk the other day, when you see something, right, there's the lens that happens is one of three things. It's I can't,
yeah,
I won't,
yeah,
or I will. And I think the sooner you go to I will, the better. But the can't is, well, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. I don't have the right team players. I don't have it's the excuses, right? I won't is more of the time thing. Well, I could do that, but I want to have this small business. I want to be able to have more time off. I want to spend more time with my kids. And what they're doing is they're making this comparison, one equals the other, and they don't. What you really need to do is when you're doing that is just realizing you're just creating walls for yourself of your inability to grow past that, which is your identity. And the sooner we can get to I will, right, which means you're going to make changes and get discomfort and change a little bit about the way you operate, but in a way that's going to be able to have a better outcome for you. That's when you really start to see true growth.
Well, I think the Greatness Lab is going to change the way the insurance business is done. I think it's going to change the way financial services is done. I think that combining the coaching with the infrastructure, and I think more and more people who know about that are going to want to be part of it. So go to greatnesslab.com, book a call if you're out there and you're ready to scale, because growing and scaling are two different things. Mm-hmm. And ready to really do something much bigger, then you want to partner with us. You get all the coaching from both of us, right? Which is on a consistent basis. You get the events that we do. Our next event is in August. It's coming up the 20th and 21st of August at the Greatness Factory. And that's going to be all on scaling and leadership of scaling. Okay. So if you got to practice, if you're a financial advisor, if you're an insurance agency, if you want to add more share of wallet, meaning get into sell annuities or other products, then this is an event you're going to want to be at the Greatness Factory. So, Jason, another good session, man.
Yes, sir.
We're leaving our amateur desires behind, and we're making.
I love that.
We're making a decision to go pro.
Let's go pro, baby.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.